ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar my dear friends, this is fifth video on human brain and its potentials. This video starts with human brain source of miraculous power. If one measures the height of his body by his own hand, it would approximate only about 86 fingers breadth in general. The organization and function of this ordinary specimen is so splendid that no sophisticated machine could match the ordered assembly and efficiency of its components. Its automatic activities in normal case are so perfect that they appear to have been derived by mathematical principles. Its regulator, the brain, appears like an astonishing creation of the Almighty. At a gross level, the major functions of the brain deal with knowledge acquisition and biological and physiological information processing, activation and control of body functions, harmonious organization of the activity in the body as per the state of the mind. If we consider the subtle potentials of the brain, we will find that its above-mentioned routine function could be expanded to unexpected extent, so much so that one could be able to get absolute knowledge about everything existing in nature, placed anywhere it in the cosmos. One would be able to communicate with any desired person at any place, howsoever far, without the help of any external device. If the hidden potentials of brain are aroused completely, one would be able to lift with ease anything of whatever weight from anywhere in the world. One would be able to control the minds of others, induce them to be an unconscious state, or even kill someone at a remote place, may even regulate the functioning of everything existing in the world. The supernatural potentials and talents termed as Astasiddhi and Navanidhi in the Indian scriptures are the expressions of the miraculous powers of brain which were attained by our ancient yogis through mental concentration and meditation with sublime spirituality. Divine incarnations have the supernatural faculties awakened since birth. Religious scriptures cite many examples of this sort. Several incidents of this kind are associated with the life of Jesus Christ. Once he was traveling barefoot with a handful of his disciples when they felt exhausted after a day's sojourn. Jesus told one of the disciples to go up to a particular distance in a particular direction and bring back the ass who was grazing there. Surprisingly, the fellow did find an ass at the same spot as guided by Jesus. He brought the animal for riding. That place, which was far beyond the sight of others, was so clearly visible to the Christ. This was nothing but a minor glimpse of his supernatural vision. Extraordinary faculties of perception exist in subtle form in the brain of every human being, which need to be awakened by dedicated efforts. The advancement of scientific understanding of some functions of the brain and simultaneous study of the effects of some yoga and dhyana sadhana on these functions had paved the way for newer research. It has also shown that the spiritual methods developed by the ancient savants are systematic and scientifically justified techniques which could activate the latent potentials of the brain. Dr. George Delgado had conducted several experiments to demonstrate that the sensual feelings like hunger, thirst, concupiscence, etc., could be controlled by controlling the governing centers of the brain. Controlling his neuronal activities could also help control the mental tendencies of a living being. In an evidential demonstration, he gave a banana to a monkey named Ali. When Ali was eating this fruit of its liking, Dr. Delgado recorded its EEG and accordingly sent specific electrical signals to the subject's brain. These signals were tuned to order the monkey to throw off the thing in hand. The viewers were surprised to watch that suddenly Ali stopped eating and threw away the banana despite his hunger and liking. In another demonstration, a bit adventurous and risky to perform, two bulls were brought in a ground surrounded by thousands of viewers, which included some experts who had come to examine Dr. Delgado's experiment. The bulls had electrodes fit in their heads. The public triggered them to have head-on collision. The fighting animals appeared so dreadful as if they would crush each other. Just then, Dr. Delgado sent a signal conveying the message that peace is better than fight to both the animals. These signals had electrified the nerves of the bulls so as to stimulate the secretion of certain hormones and suppress that of the other. Within no time, the bulls were seen standing calmly near each other like domestic goats. Although their hissing continued, but there was no excitation in them. Dr. Delgado had also successfully used the method of controlling the specific nerve functions through electrical charge for the treatment of many patients. At least 20 watts of electricity flows continuously in the brain of a normal human being throughout his life. This generation and conduction of bioelectricity is a part of the normal automatic functioning of the brain. If a neuron could be excited by some processing, then because of its electrical energy, it would work like a dynamo. The million billions neurons would collectively be equivalent to million billions of dynamos. Just imagine then what a gigantic amount of power, heat, light, electricity, etc. that could be generated from the brain. Understanding of the electrical activities of the neural network and related findings of modern sciences appear superficial when compared with the descriptions of the internal power of the brain as cited in the ancient scriptures. The divine powers of Lord Indra and Savita are said to be present in the inner core of the Sahasrara in human brain. The gods Rudra and Pushan are said to exist subtly on its backside. These divine powers were identified by the rishis as the source of the conscious and unconscious faculties of mind. Scientific findings have so far discovered that the cerebrum is the principal portion of the brain where all the nerves and veins meet collectively. This portion keeps control over the sensory and motor functions of the body. The backside of the brain is so far been analyzed as the center of memory. The electrical impulses for the subconscious and unconscious activities of the brain are considered as emanated from this portion. The activities of the conscious mind and the cerebrum reflect the existence of life in a human body. The development of body in the fetus begins from the growth of the cerebrum. The latter controls the development and organization of other organs. In spite of clinical death, a person remains alive till there is presence of consciousness in this part of his brain. Many examples of this miraculous phenomenon have been recorded in the history of modern medicine. Some of these are described below for ready reference. A Britisher named Frank Leslie had died of heart failure in Calcutta sometimes in 1896. Many members of his family had also died of similar attacks, so his death was confirmed without further investigations. His coffin was buried in a nearby graveyard. His relatives wanted to bury him in the grounds of St. John Chapel, but they could get the permission only after 6 months. Then, as per the rituals, his coffin was opened. People were stunned to see his dead body. His body was originally kept straight with his hands folded to form a cross on the chest, but now the body was lying overturned, having its back upwards. His clothes were torn and there were spots of blood in and around his mouth. The coffin was checked properly before his first burial and was closed firmly so that no insects could enter it. What happened then? The forensic experts and doctors inferred that Frank might have been buried when there was still some life in his brain that was unconscious for some time after his heart failed. By the time his brain would have regained consciousness, he would have found himself buried inside the grave. He would not have been able even to breathe inside that airtight coffin. In a shocked state of fear and irritation, he might have tried to come out of that box. In this attempt, his clothes would have got torn, and in the end, he would have died of suffocation after vomiting blood. Another incident of similar kind had occurred in a ladies' hostel in Edinburgh. A resident orphan girl had fallen sick there despite medical treatments. On day, her condi- One day, her condition became critical and all observable symptoms of life disappeared. Her pulsation and breathing also stopped. After a preliminary checkup, the doctor on duty declared that she is dead. However, the warden of the hostel was not Convinced, she said, I cannot believe that she has died. I will allow her cremation if her body begins to stink. Surprisingly, the girl was lying in that state for about 10 days. Still, there was no sign of degradation of her body. Even the doctors were amazed to see this peculiar body. More startling was the fact that the girl gained consciousness after 13 days and became healthy few days later. The revered saintly expert of Indian classical music Swami Haridas had once gone into trance to demonstrate on the request of the Sikh king Ranjit Singh the power of Indian yoga to a British general named Sir Ventura. In two such experiments, the Swami was buried in a muddy pit, once for 10 days and another time for 40 days. In both the experiments, he was found perfectly healthy when he came out. However, the central top portion where the Hindus grow the hair knot Sikha of his head had become hot like fire. The portion of brain beneath this spot of head is very important in yoga sadhana. This is called Rodsi of the Saptadhara Soma. Literally speaking, Rodsi means having two parts. The two parts of central brain, the reservoir of subtle energy of consciousness, are described in the yoga scriptures as the centers of existence of the divine powers of Indra and Svita. The middle portion of the brain below the center is called Antariksha and the lower one Prithvi. Seven principal streams, Saptadhara of the power of Soma, the eternal nectar of life and energy, are described as Agni, Svargdwara, Atri, Dronakshla, Aswini, etc. These are supposed to exist latently in the middle portion of the brain. Paraslas Paracelsus has also mentioned about the above described seven powers and classified them into two groups, Apollo and David. He has considered these seven currents to be associated with the spiritual functions and the subtle emotional reflections of the human mind. In anatomical terms, the associated seven activity centers of the brain correspond to the seven ventricles. The first two of these are in the right and the fourth is located in the left side of brain. The third one below the top center is connected with the pituitary and pineal glands. The fifth ventricle below the third is attached to the cerebellum. The sixth one begins from the lower end of the brain and expands within the spinal column till the sacroaxial ganglion, the lower end of the spinal cord. The seventh ventricle is spread like a cloud in the right portion of the skull. Varuna, water god, is described in the scriptures as omnipresent in each of the three lokas. Yassa Sarveta Vichakshana Vishta Bhumiradhikstitha Thirutrani Papratuhu Varunasya Dhruven Subha Sa Saptani Bhayati, meaning the mysterious streams of power endowed with the subliminal presence of God Varuna are spread in the three lokas. All these are bound with the brain particles, neurons in the upward direction. This portion is the main center of existence of Lord Varuna. The seven groups of linkages, nerves emanated from this center regulate the entire body and mental functions. Interestingly, the findings of modern research have a simile in the above description. The neuroscientists have found the cerebra spinal fluid to be spread everywhere in the nervous system. 99% of this fluid consists of water only. The comparison of the available scientific results with spiritual deliberations, although in a preliminary state and far from being complete, certainly opens up newer ways for collaboration between the two approaches to the search of knowledge. This would inspire the modern scientist to look into the philosophy and science of spirituality to attempt interpretation, analysis, and implementation of the theories and methods cited in the ancient scriptures. There is wide scope for modern science to research in this area. Different kinds of subtle power of the omnipresent consciousness are described as the manifestations of devatas, powers of God in the Indian philosophy. For instance, the seven ventricles are described as seven gods, Sapta Devata Soma, in the scriptures of yoga and spirituality. These scriptures contain treasures of knowledge of the majestic structure and function of the human brain. The method and guidance presented there are useful for all human beings. One who learns and gains expertise in practice, practicing the associated eight yogas and spiritual sadhanas can attain the supernatural powers, some of the kind described in the beginning of this section. I conclude this video at this point. Next video will start with the topic arousing the hidden potentials of brain. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends. Thank you.